If there's one thing we've learned about business and life, it's that people are the X factor. They constantly surprise us, both in amazing ways and not so much. We're Ben and Sia, and welcome to the GNAW On This Business Bites podcast. This show is all about real-life things we all deal with every day, how they relate to business, and how to make some sense out of our daily chaos. Welcome to the show. And welcome back to another episode of GNAW On This Business Bites. It's Ben and Sia. Welcome back to the show. Now, this week, Sia and I have been talking about this for weeks now. We've been talking off air, and we need to bring everybody into the conversation. You know, this is an important topic. You know, you may like it, you may not like about it, you may have heard way too much about it. But we're going to talk a little bit differently about the Depp Heard trial, and I'm going to let Sia tee this thing up.
Okay. So, peeps, we're not talking about the trial per se. No. So I'm not going to be talking about whether we agree, disagree, what the content of it. We're actually talking about the results of this event, if you will, in social media and how it actually, I'm going to title this unofficially, the creators are having its day. So the YouTube podcasters of the world, I think if anything, this has shown our power of our individual voices, that the traditional media is really finally casting a threatening highlight at us. So, and I say us because I did feel attacked at times. So what we're talking about is this. If anyone has been following the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, I guarantee you a very high percentage of you went on YouTube. And when you went on YouTube, you followed certain channels. And those channels, at least for me, and I'll speak in my own anecdotal evidence, if you will, is I followed a bunch of lawyers. They were, I thought, far superior to traditional media in reporting what was going on. And you could see the live stream of the court itself and their really unbiased views on what the court proceedings, and explained things a heck of a lot better than traditional media. So, Ben, I know you were like, girl, where are you going with this?
No. I think I have a pretty good idea where you're going with this, because I have an agreement, because I take things like, and we'll leave the trial for a second, and we'll go to an election or any major event. And whether you watch CNN, CNBC, Fox News, whatever, you go up and you get this breaking headline that says, you know, breaking news, and it seems like everything in the last 15 seconds is breaking news, but that's a different story. There's a whole bunch of talking heads that are paid a lot of money to sit there and pontificate, you know, at our expense, their viewpoint. And if you go on certain stations, it has a right wing slant. If you go to other stations, it has a left wing slant. But there's always that sensationalism that's going with it, because let's face it, they got to sell commercials. They got to shell airtime. They got to keep you involved in this thing. And there's a lot of agenda that goes with it. But when you take a look at the independents, when you take a look at things like the YouTube channels and, you know, the Twitter streams and all those type of things, where, as you said, the independent content providers are getting involved, it's a lot less sensational. It's a lot more fact-based. It's a lot more educational. And you find that you have a lot less biased opinion, and it's a lot more fact-based. And I think that there's a lot of power in that, and we need to think about that in terms of our own media. And how do we present? Like, what's truth? What's fiction? What's sensationalism? And what's reality? And I think we need to be able to look at this both when we're looking at the way we present ourselves and the way that we consume media, to sit there and say, okay, is that fact? Is that fiction? Is that opinion? Or is it something else? So you're up.
I am so just, I could talk all day long on this, because it really, I can't tell you, Ben, how much I believe very strongly that if we're not paying attention, and you and I are a certain generation demographic, but if you actually listen and see, I mean, one channel alone, and I don't mind calling her out because I would love to have her on, Emily D. Baker. She blew up.
No relation, by the way. No relation.
No relation, by the way. Yeah. But hey, You might want to be. She is a former deputy DA out of Los Angeles, and her YouTube channel went from, I think she said, around 200K, and it blew up during the Rittenhouse. They went over and talked about Rittenhouse, but 200 to over 600. I think she's pushing 700,000 subscribers in the time frame of the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. Okay, now that being said, she was on for a long time, and she streamed for hours on end because, it was a court date, right?
Sure.
But here's what's crazy about that whole thing is that at its peak, it was on the day of the verdict. She had over 300,000 people on that live stream with her alone. It was just her. And she was just watching the court, as it played out, and would explain, and people would be asking questions on the side, and she was asking in real time. Okay. Where do you get that in traditional media? Where do you get that where she says, that's a really interesting question, that's a great point, and she's getting feedback from her community and she's adjusting accordingly? Or, there've been a few times where she said, hey, chat, clean up your language or you're going to get modded out, right? That is something that we seek today that the generations expect. Look at all the TikTok videos where everyone has interaction capabilities, right? Us older generation may not be familiar with that. I think the closest that we have to this is maybe talk radio.
Right.
Maybe.
And
I think that's something that we really have to pay attention to. And that's, again, what you and I do for a living feeds right into this. And I'm wondering, Ben, let me ask you this. We're in it. So maybe that's why we're so excited about it, because we're like, yay, yet another bullet point to show our clients there is a reason why this exists. Mm-hmm. Do you think we're biased, or do you really think we're at a sea change here?
Well, first of all, yes, we are biased. Let's call a spade. We are biased because we're in it. We get excited about, we nerd out about this sort of thing, but that's beyond the point. It's beyond the point whether we nerd out about it or not. The fact is that what you're doing is you're looking at a level of content providing that is level-headed, that is accurate, that is being presented by somebody who is a professional, and let's get into that as well, and is something that is based on commenting on what is actually going on and not commenting on what somebody else said is going on, or hearsay, or maybe somebody said something. This is a woman who's sitting there going, okay, I'm live streaming the actual trial itself. As it's going on, people are asking me specific questions about specific case points. And I, as a lawyer, as a practicing lawyer, am answering this to a point, not to give an opinion, but to be able to lay out fact of why this is this way. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's an extremely important thing, because it's brand building, it's content providing, it's adding value to an audience. And all of a sudden, you're getting a whole bunch of people are sitting there going, wait a second, if I ever need somebody to defend me, this is the woman to do it. Now, I couldn't have had that legitimacy. I couldn't have sat there on a live stream talking about this particular case and be able to provide that same legitimacy as a content provider. Yeah, I can talk for 12 hours at a time, but I certainly can't provide the same level of value that a practicing lawyer can when somebody is looking for something to do this. Now, if we want to talk about communication style, if we wanted to talk about brand and brand perception and positioning and all that kind of stuff, and have a conversation about that on a live stream while this trial is going on, yeah, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
But it would have to be a completely different type of podcast or a different type of commentary based on who we are and the level of expertise that we bring to the table. Because if you're, and I hate to use the expression just a poser, somebody that, that doesn't have the credentials, somebody that doesn't have this, that's just giving my opinion of, how much weight does that give? And how much value are you giving? And are you giving right information? Are you giving wrong information? And people need to be able to think about that when they're listening to content and saying, is the person that I'm listening to actually giving me accurate and valuable information, or are they just giving me their opinion?
And I think that is so critical, and that's what matters. So there are articles, Ben, that I'm reading right now where traditional media is attacking the YouTube channels. There are some sensationalist YouTube channels, 100%. Right?
Absolutely.
But I think the audience that is looking for credible information, they're going to gravitate toward it. And it was proven. Okay. It's been proven that these, they call it LawTube. It's a collection of like 13, 15 lawyers who have their own individual channels where they got together casually. There's no official signed agreement. They just jump on each other's show. And how amazing is that, where when they want to do a panel like thing where they all decide to get on one person's show and to talk, and then they just jump onto another channel. And it is, to me, the way that the spirit of YouTube is the positive of it. This is the greatest thing for it because they're all supporting each other. There's no competition. There's no cutthroating that's going on. And they all have opinions that they're sharing with each other based on their experience because of their legal background. So that is what I thought was so exciting about it. But that's not to say us as content creators cannot have that as well. So where I thought, if I were to start over and understand the value of the excitement of what was going on, had I known the foresight 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks, or whatever it is, right? I would have had us on, Ben, to talk about, let's look at someone like two celebrities here. They've got PR agencies and personal branding. Let's look at their online presence. Let's look at their handles and how they're managing it. Those are all the things that you and I can comment to, right?
And we can build a following on that based on the fact that we're giving an opinion that actually matters. And I think, and we want to cut this thing down because I want to keep this as a short period of time and come back and we can talk about this again at a later time. But it's important that people think, if you're going to put out content, if you're going to be a voice of reason, be a voice of reason within your pocket. Know what you know what you don't know where you can add value and to whom. Don't be sensational, be a value add person. And if you do that, you're going to build a following, you're going to build a reputation, you're going to build a brand, and that's going to lead to all the great things that come with it.
Oh, Ben, I don't think you could have closed it and summarized it better than that. I think this is a great finish to really get everyone to think about this, guys. Gnaw on this.
Gnaw on this, Business Bites. Till next time, everybody.
See ya. Hey. Thanks for listening to another episode of Gnaw on This, Business Bites. If you liked what you heard, we most humbly ask that you like, share, and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to communicate more effectively within your organization, contact Ben at yourbrandmarketing.com or me, Sia, at innovationmediaenterprises.com. We can help you build your community, brand awareness, and personality through podcasting. We cannot wait to hear from you. So see you next week for another episode of Gnaw on This, Business Bites.